Hello, everyone, and welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm Nipasa Pradhan, and I'm going to be your host for today. And it's going to be a fun webinar because we are going to discuss about major hurdles in US immigration. But before I tell you more about the topic and also about the guest who's going to join us, I have this important disclaimer to read out. And that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, once again, a very warm welcome to all you folks who have joined us. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever the time zone you may have joined us from. Yes, thank you so much. And like I was saying, today's topic of discussion is major hurdles in US immigration and how can you overcome the challenges is what we're going to discuss in today's webinar, which is going to go on for about an hour. And friends, we are streaming live right now, not only on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So thank you so much, all you folks, for joining us. And if you have any questions related to immigration, and especially, with the topic of discussion today, it'll be very nice to have your questions because we are going to have our expert join us, and she is none other than our very regular guest. She is attorney Prashanthi Reddy, and she has been practicing immigration law for over 27 years and counting. So, very lovely to have you with us today, Prashanthi, once again. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry, Prashanthi, you're muted. Just,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. So good to have you. Thank you for joining us. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I wasn't muted. I don't know what happened. Yeah,
Okay.
as I was saying, it's great to be here again.
Thank you, Prashanthi, and I'm looking forward for a very insightful webinar, and hopefully, it's going to be very helpful for the audience out there who have joined us today. Thank you so much. So today's topic: major hurdles in U.S. immigration. This is a topic of concern, definitely, and a challenge faced by many immigrants out there. So, Prashanthi, what can viewers out there expect from us today?
Well, we'll talk about what the topic says. What are the challenges that are faced by immigrants? What are the challenges faced by USCIS? What are the political challenges? What, if any, are the solutions to these problems? And also some common mistakes that immigrants tend to make while filing their application. So I think these are the things that we'll cover today.
Absolutely. But before we dive into the topic further, about the second selection round announcement for fiscal year 2025 H1B cap, I think we have to talk about that since we always have people asking. I think before people ask today, it's our turn now to let them know. So, what do you have to say about this? USCIS recently announced a second selection round for the fiscal year 2025 H1B cap. So, maybe if you could explain a little bit, what this means for applicants out there and how they can improve their chances, maybe if they have any.
Yes, so that's great news for everyone. USCIS has decided to do conduct another lottery. The reason why USCIS has decided to conduct another lottery is because the applications that were previously selected, not everyone filed for their H1. So that's what they do usually. They do first round of lottery. They select enough people that they think will even cover the ones that don't file, but looks like they didn't select enough people this time. So they've, though it's over the, if it's 85,000, I think they've selected some 100 and something thousand. So it looks like a lot of people have not filed, and therefore they're still need more numbers to complete the lottery. So because they want to use all the H1B numbers. So when they find that they don't have enough H1s to cover the entire cap, then they do another lottery. And that's what they've
Yes.
announced yesterday. Their announcement is that they will have another lottery. They have also announced that they will do another lottery, but not for the master's quota. The
Masters,
lottery will
right.
be only for the general quota. What does this mean? This means that um, Anyone, of course, will be everyone will be put into the lottery again. All those people who have registered as of the deadline in March, you cannot register again. So
Mm-hmm.
those people who have already registered will be put into the lottery again. There won't be a separate lottery for master's cap people. Usually, how it works is there's a 20,000 numbers are put aside for master's degree holders, US master's degree holders,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the 65,000 are for the general cap. So what happens
Mm-hmm.
for master's degree holders is they get two picks into the lottery. So they're first put into the 20,000 lottery for the master's
Mm-hmm.
cap, and then if they don't get selected, they're put into the general 65,000 lottery for for everyone else.
Yes.
So that won't happen, meaning that the master's cap people will not be put into two lotteries. They won't, because it looks like the 20,000 master's cap quota has been filled, but they'll still get
Yes.
a chance to be put into the regular lottery,
Okay.
with everyone else, right? So they will have one chance to get selected again, along with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't done the lottery yet. They'll do it in the near future. That's what they said. And once they do it, then we'll get notifications in our USCIS portal
Mm-hmm.
as to which cases have been selected. And they will finally then include, selected, not selected, denied. These are the things that'll come up as final status on our portal. And the selection notices will also be attached as PDFs in the portal. So we just print it out and then submit it along with the application. Once they do the lottery, then they will again give us 90 days to file the H1. So you'll have 90 days starting from the date that the lottery is conducted.
Mm-hmm.
It'll also say on the notice as to when your 90 days period is getting over. So perhaps if they do the lottery in August, then November might be the end date to file all your H1s. Maybe the end of November. So we have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
So that is information about your lottery, and that's breaking information. Everybody's
It
been
is.
waiting for it. There was a lot of speculation as to whether there will be a lottery, there won't be a lottery. A
Right.
lot of people on the ground, a lot of companies, IT companies, did tell me that the market is bad, so they have not filed, even though they have been picked. Their
Mm-hmm.
candidates have been picked in the lottery. So this was somewhat expected, but you never know with USCIS. Also, we don't know how many cases, how many numbers are left over. So we don't know that either. So we don't know how many people they will select for this lottery. We'll
Yes.
wait and see. They do announce those numbers end of the fiscal year, so we will have those numbers at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But as of now, we don't know how many more numbers are available. So we don't know if it's a lot or if it's only a few. So let's wait and see.
Yes, absolutely. But it is the time where you can definitely be excited, friends, and look forward for this second lottery that you have been waiting for. So they have finally announced yesterday, and it is happening. So look forward for it. And all the very best to each one of you. Probably folks out there who couldn't make it to the first lottery. This is your second chance, and let's hope for the best. Pray hard and keep your fingers crossed as well. So thank you so much, Prashanthi, for that update and definitely a breaking news. So once the numbers are out or any other update on this is also available, we are sure going to update you. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. And thank you so much, Prashanthi, for that once again. Moving
Welcome.
on to our topic back again, major hurdles in US immigration and how can you overcome the challenges? I have another question regarding this, actually, the first question. So, Prashanthi, if you could tell us, what are some of the common cultural adjustments and challenges that new immigrants face, when moving to the United States, and how can they prepare for these challenges?
Right. So a lot of immigrants, of course, there will be cultural language barriers, which put immigrants at a disadvantage because they don't have enough information sometimes. They don't have the resources. They don't know where to go, who to ask. They don't have an idea as to what the law is. So those are always challenges that immigrants face. So one of the primary challenges immigrants face and entrepreneurs face also is the presence of as you were saying, cultural and language barriers. So now always navigating a new culture, understanding, what the local, for a businessman, understanding what the local business practices are,
Hmm.
communicating properly in a language that is foreign to them can be daunting. However, many immigrant entrepreneurs do adapt and are able to scope the market out and find their market share and communicate quite effectively. Luckily for Indian nationals, English is not an issue, so they face less cultural or language barriers when compared to people from other countries where
Language.
English is not their main language.
Hmm.
However, there are many, even for them, there are many organizations, there are many immigration attorneys that you can contact who might speak your language. There are a lot of resources online that can help you, overcome these cultural and language barriers. I think in addition to this, limited access to finances is also another problem that a lot of immigrants face. Especially entrepreneurs, because they don't have family here, they don't have, financial resources available here in the US. Often it's difficult for them to move their financial resources from India to the US. Um, and, that's not always possible and it's time consuming.
Yes.
They don't have, we see immigrants here may not immediately get a credit card because they don't have a credit history, right? And they're unfamiliar with the banking systems. They don't know how to get loans. And sometimes, if you're a non-immigrant, you may not be given a loan, like if you want to
Hmm.
buy a house, etc. So that's another thing that immigrants often face. They may not get student loans. Even if they do, the interest rate might be really high, as opposed to if you're a permanent resident or a US citizen, you obviously have a better access to finances and to loans.
Hmm.
um, However, there are options available. There's funding sources such as crowdfunding, personal banks, networking, and a lot of financial institutions do offer loans to people on a H-1B as well. So,
Hmm.
there are solutions out there, but there are problems as well.
Yes.
Also, I guess the immigration law itself is so complex that it's often confusing for a person, especially who has just arrived from, outside the country, to navigate this entire complex, immigration system. Even for attorneys, it's complex sometimes because, USCIS interprets the laws differently at different points of time. So you kind of have to guess how they'll interpret the law sometimes. And that's difficult even for professionals. So you can imagine how difficult it is, for common folk out there.
Hmm.
And the law itself is written, the way it's written is not easy to understand, right? So as all laws are, not sometimes written, for common people to understand, they have to be interpreted.
Hmm.
So that's one problem. So obtaining visas, work permits, and understanding, the legal requirements, whether you're starting a business or you've come here as a student, it's difficult.
Yes.
But I must say that entrepreneurs often, they are resilient. As I said, immigrants are resilient and they often find avenues, they seek legal advice, they partner with experts, they go online, they do their research. And there are also a lot of government advocacy groups that will teach or educate immigrants on what their rights are, how to file for citizenship, what to do, what not to do. So there are a lot of public engagement from USCIS as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Also, another challenge is maybe they have, immigrants have, people who are immigrating here, rather, I must say non-immigrants, have limited professional networks. So for them to, find out information, they don't know anyone that can help them. They're mostly, they might be, like if a student comes here, they might be all alone. They might not have any family here. They have
Yes.
to depend on their peers and their other student bodies, or maybe their DSO in their school, to find out
Yes.
what kind of you know to find out about everything, not just immigration but everything, where to get a
Yes.
credit
Yes.
card, how to open a bank account, everything. But
Yes.
luckily there are a lot of mentorship programs, and there is a lot of support out there for entrepreneurs as well as for people who come on a H1, or students who come here. So there is some help out there. So you know it's a matter of finding the help.
Mhm.
And last but not the least, I think what a lot of newly people who come here newly encounter is trying to balance out their family responsibilities, their entrepreneurial pursuits, keeping in status, their job. It all becomes rather overwhelming and difficult, right? So, especially for people who have young children, if they're trying to set up a business at the same time, trying to figure out what the laws are, open a bank account, etc., etc. It can be very daunting. But again, there is a lot of support out there. So I look for the support. Don't try to do everything on your own. So that is
Yes.
some of the hurdles and some solutions available for immigrants, people immigrating to the US, in general.
Thank you. Thank you, Prashanthi. Thank you. That was very clear, actually. But when we talk about culture, especially, and if you think about America, I think what comes to mind is the work culture, how people are actually in America to hustle and to make money and to have a better future, retire early, maybe, things like that. So that is the common culture that comes to the mind. But if you can give us a little picture of just like that, like a sort of a culture out in America, so that people out there from different parts of the world can really know what are they going to expose themselves to when they move to the United States.
Um, Again, I always try, Nipasa, to stick only to immigration.
I
So I don't
know.
want to go into the culture part of it, because I just feel that, I'm an expert in immigration and not necessarily in culture, but in general, because I've lived here
In
for some
general,
years,
yes.
and since you're asking, yeah. I mean, yeah, as you said, there is the culture here is, people are very hardworking. Most people are. But if you're coming from India, especially, that should not be a problem for you, because I know Indians are very hardworking as well. Um, but sometimes culturally, when you say something, and your body language may not be interpreted the same way, it's difficult sometimes to and interpret the body language of a person, a local, American, or a person, from that culture. So sometimes those barriers are there. Communication barriers, I would say, even though you're speaking the same language,
Yes.
there are communication barriers because body language is not understood, or sometimes when something is said in a certain way, it's misunderstood. Though you're saying it, it's the way that you say it and what you mean when you say something, right? The
Right.
underlying meaning is sometimes misunderstood. So, when you come here and if you're new, always ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand what the person means or intends, always ask. And people here are very straightforward. They're not cunning or conniving, and they will take you at face value, right? They will not have any preconceptions about you. They don't usually have preconceptions about people. They will take you at face value,
Mhm.
and only if you prove otherwise will they then, form an opinion of you. So people don't generally form an opinion of someone at the get-go, which sometimes people from other cultures do. So that's
True.
that's a refreshing change. They're very frank and upfront. So that's
Nice.
something to keep in mind, that they're not judging you. I mean, there is racism and all that, but in general, people don't. They're pretty straightforward, and they will take whatever you say literally, and they will believe whatever you say if you say it, right? So because they're not cynical, and like our
Mhm.
cultures tend to be, sometimes we tend to be cynical. So that's the only, I think, something that maybe I should mention. And
Sure.
also the laws are different here in this country, so always keep in mind the laws are stricter. So you might think that you're stealing something or shoplifting which might be okay in India, but here you'll get into a lot of trouble if you're an immigrant. So please be careful with even small things. I mean, getting into an altercation with someone might actually end up being assault, right? It might be verbal assault. You might not actually hit someone or cause anyone physical harm. So don't get into any altercations with anyone at any social situations or in a bar, etc.
Mhm.
Be very careful with, no means no. So, rape is a big issue here. Consent is very important. So keep that in mind as well. So these are the few things that students tend to get into trouble for. And that's why I thought I should mention it.
Yes,
Uh,
thank you.
Not knowing the law, listening to someone else as to what the law is, thinking that it's okay to break the law because they won't get into trouble. These are a few things to keep in mind. Even simple things like having a driver's license, driving without a driver's license is a huge problem. If you get into an accident and someone gets hurt, it's a felony and you can be deported. Same way with shoplifting, same way with the other things that you might think are petty offenses might actually be felonies, and you don't want to even, have the cops, um, have any encounters with the cops of any kind, because
Right.
that can affect your immigration status.
Thank you so much. Thank you for putting that all out there on a table for us, Prashanthi. I'm sure people out there have an idea now what they will be going to if they're planning to move to America for their future. I mean, whether it's studies or working. And like Prashanthi has already mentioned, friends, you may not have the language barrier, and also, but also, at the same time, the local lingo matters. So what you may say, they may not understand, or what they may be saying in the same language, English, you may not understand clearly. So it's always better to make sure, confirm, ask, and re-ask. I think it's always best to play safe. And also, same goes with the rules and the law. So do your research properly and see that you're not misled, and don't have the misconception that they are already judging you. All right, ask. That's always best. Thank you, Prashanthi. All right, let's move on now. I got another question for you, and that is, how can having an experienced immigration attorney help individuals overcome USCIS denials and realize their residency dreams?
Uh, so after there's some basic mistakes that people make when they try to file their applications themselves. Um, and so you should, if you use an attorney, it's unlikely that those mistakes will be made because they do this all the time and they have certain processes in place. I mean, human error is something that you can't avoid, but I think they're less likely to make that human error than you are because they know what to look for. They know they have, as I said, processes in place. They have two or three people reviewing your case, and also they have a unique knowledge, right, which you may not have. Even if you read online, you may not have the knowledge that they have, right? So they have the knowledge that will help you encounter any situation and will help you um, be able to file the application correctly. Application is not just simply filling out forms, and sometimes even those forms, though it might seem to be pretty straightforward, it's not straightforward. And
Okay.
there are so many instances that I can tell you about. If you're not aware of what USCIS is looking for, you might answer a question incorrectly. You might give the incorrect information because you don't know what the repercussions are, and you don't know actually what USCIS is looking for. Sometimes you might even misunderstand the question. So it's important that you prepare your immigration petition correctly. Even if you're either whether you're doing this on your own or you're doing it through an attorney, and I recommend doing that always through your attorney. Even if they're doing it, you can always make sure that your name, your date of birth, your date of last arrival, all that information is given to them properly so that they can they can enter all the information correctly. Um, the fee is very important that you submit the correct fee, and this is
Yes.
something an immigration attorney can help you with because the fee is very, very complicated, especially for certain cases. And especially now, where they have add on fees which are applicable, not applicable to you. it is confusing even for us as to what the fees are on a
Hmm.
particular petition, and it took us a while to read and reread the regs and their the practice tips and information that USCIS has provided to understand, for example, what the H-1B fee is, whether the additional asylum fee applies to you or not, um, what the I-130, like a family-based petition, whether what the fee is. Uh, if you're a certain age, if you're under 14, it's a certain fee. If you're adult, it's a certain fee. When you are over 75, there was a different fee, but now that fee has been removed, right? So things
Hmm.
keep changing rapidly. So it's difficult for you to keep yourself updated. You might go to a website and look at the fee, and that might not be the correct fee because it's changed, and that particular website was not updated, right?
True, true.
So always make sure you use an attorney for that purpose. You know, providing information. So the form sometimes asks for information, and you might think that it's not necessary to fill it out. For example, when you're filing for your green card, they ask you for 5 years of employment, 5 years um, of address proof, and oftentimes we see people even when they fill it out, when they give us the information, they don't give us the full 5 years, and we have to go back and ask
Okay.
them for
Hmm.
all the information because they don't realize why it's important and that the case can actually come back or an RFE can be sent. So incomplete filling out of application, and as human beings we tend to do that, right? We don't, if
Right.
it's a application is really really lengthy, we think that okay, we've given them enough information. If they need more, they'll ask for it. So that's an example of what you shouldn't do, and why you should use an attorney, because they know what has to be filled out, what is optional and what is not. Also, sending your case out to the correct address. This is also very complicated. Addresses keep changing. USCIS changes their addresses as to where to send particular cases. It's complicated as it is because depending on the type of case, depending on where you're living, there are many factors depending on which
Right.
your address has to go to a particular place. On top of that, they keep changing that information as well, and they keep changing the criteria based on which your petition goes to a certain address. Also, sometimes when you have documentation that needs translation and you send out untranslated documents because you do not know that you need to send out a document only in English because you don't have knowledge of the law, that will cause a problem as well. And that's
Hmm.
another reason why you should use an attorney. But if you're doing it on your own, make sure you send out translated documents.
Hmm.
Um, and supporting documents. It's sometimes difficult to know by just going to the USCIS website what supporting documents have to be submitted for each case. So again, an attorney can tell you what documents you need to support. They can review the documents. They can audit them, make sure if the documents are not correct, then they will suggest either correction of the document or they can suggest alternate documents to submit. This is also extremely important. For example, in a green card application, when you're filing a birth certificate, when you're submitting a birth certificate, the birth certificate has to be from the correct authority. And you might not know that. You might submit a birth certificate from the consulate, which is not acceptable. The birth certificate
Okay.
has to be registered at the time that the birth took place. If it was not registered at that time, then you have to submit secondary evidence. And all this is not necessarily there in the instructions to the form. So that's why I'm saying, filing a case on your own can be daunting. You might think it's
Yes.
easy, but it's not. Um, Also, you know, preparing you for your immigration interviews. When you file a green card, when you file a H-1, you have to go for a visa interview. When you file a green card, you'll go for a green card interview, and the attorney can prepare you and tell you what to expect in a
Hmm.
marriage-based interview or other family-based or employment-based interviews. This also again, when if you read up, you may not get proper information on how you need to prepare, what the common questions are, etc., etc.
Yes.
Um, in addition to that, if you've ever had prior problems with the law, an immigration attorney can advise you on how you can still apply for your H1 or for your F1 or for your green card, etc.
Mhm.
Even with prior issues with the law. So that's another thing, another reason why you might need a immigration attorney.
Absolutely. And so, do you need an immigration attorney? We would all say yes, you definitely need, because there are so many things to keep in mind while filing your visa application, whether you're a student, an employer, an employee, or maybe you're going for a family-based visa. For all these, and there are so many steps and so many things to keep in mind for each document, just like Prashanthi has said. So, you should, I think, yes, you should definitely have an attorney to go through your whole case and help you, I mean, see you through the whole process for sure. But if you cannot afford one, but it's always good to consult one so that you'll be guided in the right direction. So thank you, Prashanti. And at this moment, I'll quickly say hi because we have questions from the viewers and they have been waiting for us to also take them up. Hi to Reshma, Ravi, Akbar, Shaukat, Chandra, Rag, Caroline. Very lovely to have you and also your questions. I think we should quickly take one. Let's take up Rag. Rag is asking us on YouTube. Entrepreneurs are advised to hire immigration attorneys at the inception phase and not the visa stage. What's your take on this?
Yes, so that's a good. I think Rag is also giving us advice
Yes.
indirectly, which is good advice that it's important before you even start your business to consult an immigration attorney, especially if you want to. If you are, if you want to file a green card for yourself as an entrepreneur, or you want to file a green card or a non-immigrant work visa for your employees, it's important to know some things which, then you cannot change. Perhaps something needs to be done at the type of time of inception of your company, right? Which then will then be very difficult to do once it's incorporated, etc. Then you have to make changes. So it's a good idea. Uh, for example, in an L1 situation, if you're incorporating your company in the US, before you incorporate, you have to first ask the attorney what kind of company you need to incorporate. It doesn't matter, which state you incorporate in. What is the organizational structure of the company? Who owns the company? What is the ownership divide in the company? Who owns it? What percentage of shares are owned by say, the Indian company, or what's owned by the US company? So all that is done at the inception of the company. So it's important to speak to an immigration attorney before you start the process rather than doing it midway. So at the visa stage is really midway. So you should do it in the beginning.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Rag, for that very interesting question and indirectly giving us advice as well. And also Prashanti for seconding Rag and explaining it further for us. So, Caroline, where we move, I'm sure this is a very interesting question, but we will take this up after the break. It's now time for a quick break, actually. So, friends out there, if you want to contact Attorney Prashanti directly, you should definitely give her a call and give her contact her. And her number is displayed on the screen. Her number is 212-354-1010. Once again, I repeat, 212-354-1010. And also you can email Prashanti at reddyesq.com. And to get to know more about Prashanthi Reddy and also the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy, go visit this website, reddyesq.com. And folks, don't go anywhere because we will be talking further on the major hurdles in US immigration and how can you overcome these challenges, only on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show with me, Nipasa Pradhan.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408 335 6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, and very happy to have you back. This is the second half of the webinar we're having today with attorney Prashanthi Reddy, and it's really lovely to have you with us today, Prashanthi. And today's topic of discussion is major hurdles in U.S. immigration and how can you overcome the challenges. So far, so good, and it's been very interesting this session. And we also took up a question from the audience. Rag, thank you for your question once again. And I was saying before we went off of the break that we will take up Caroline's question. So, Prashanthi, I think we'll just go for it. Okay.
Sure.
Caroline is asking on YouTube. Hello, my name is Caroline. By grace of God, I am DV 2025 selected. My education certificate has my name as Caroline with a Y, while all other documents, birth certificate and PP, has my name as Caroline with an I. Please advise.
I don't see an issue with this. It's not something that can't be fixed. Um, you just get an affidavit. I mean, they're going to obviously follow your birth certificate. I'm presuming that would be the correct document. Um, it's just your educational documents that have the wrong name. So you can always submit an affidavit from, your parents, or people who have known you throughout your life that your name is this and this. And, at the time of whatever that you enrolled in school, perhaps the name was misspelled.
Mhm.
An affidavit should be sufficient to overcome that. But for a DV visa lottery, especially, it doesn't matter what your educational documents say, because you don't necessarily have to submit them. You just have to submit your birth certificate and your
Okay.
passport, etc. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. So, Caroline, first off, congratulations for winning the DV lottery 2025. And there's nothing to worry about. I hope Prashanti's advice was good for you. If you have any further questions, we're here for a little more time. You can drop your question in the comments. Thank you. All right, let's move on now to another question from the audience. This is Noreen. I am a foreign educated RN and on a visitor visa. Will hospitals sponsor me? What are the options?
Yeah, great question. The problem with filing a H1, so the main work visa is the H1B work visa. Unless you're from Canada or Mexico, when you have the TN. If you're from Australia, then you have the E visa that you can use. But otherwise, for everybody else, it's basically the H that you have to use. And the hospitals, if they have to sponsor you, they will have to, sponsor you on one of these visas. Narrowing it down to the H visa, they could also sponsor you on a green card directly if you're not from India or China. That could help as well by if they can file a green card in EB2 or EB3, but that might take some time. So in the interim, I don't think the filing of the green card directly will help you start working immediately. So they would have to sponsor you for some kind of a work visa. So for the
Okay.
H1, the problem is that if you're working as a nurse, um, the licensing requirement for nurses in most of the states in the US are an associate's degree, not a bachelor's degree. And
Mhm.
since the job has to require a bachelor's degree uh, in order to apply for a H1, you may not qualify for a H1. There are some exceptions. APRNs, so advanced practice nurses, require
Mhm.
a bachelor's degree to get a license. So if you're working as an APRN, you'll be able to get a H1, and of course, you have to find a sponsor. But there are two issues here: the immigration issue, and the issue of finding a sponsor. So at least the immigration issue will be resolved. Also, sometimes if you work as a specialized nurse, such as a nurse in the cardiac unit or nurse in the emergency room,
Right.
um, it's a 50-50% chance of getting a H1. Sometimes you might. If you're able to show if the hospital is able to show that they only hire nurses with bachelor's degrees. But otherwise, there's seems to be a presumption that a nurse doesn't require a bachelor's degree because to get a license you don't require a bachelor's but only an associate.
Okay.
And in the industry, if it seems common to hire a person who doesn't have a bachelor's degree. So these are some of the issues that you might face.
Okay. So Noreen has an update telling us more about her. I am from Pakistan and have passed NC Lex. I have only 4 months left on a visitor visa.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you'd have to go with the H if someone is able to sponsor you. And whatever I said about the H1, you have to overcome those issues.
Okay. All the best, Noreen. And Caroline says, thank you. I appreciate for your assistance. Thank you, Caroline, also. Thank you. And let's move on, Prashanthi, before we go on to more questions from the audience. If you could, given the rise of the encounters at the US Mexico border, maybe if you could tell us what immediate policy changes or legislative actions are necessary to modernize the US immigration system and meet labor market needs. I mean, from your point of view.
Yeah, so the US-Mexico border has been a big issue, and that's a big immigration problem. Since we're talking about immigration problems, we have to talk
Yes,
about that
we have
one,
to.
though
Yes.
so I think I mean, there are a lot of organizations, nonprofits that have done research into this and have come up with some solutions. None of the solutions are obviously 100% because, it's a problem. People want to come to the US. They take great risks for themselves and their families to come to the US because some of them who are coming legally, it's fine, but people who don't have a way of coming legally try to come illegally into the US. And so it's difficult to stop that flow of population from coming across the border. Though, there is a wall, there is CBP, there is border enforcement, border patrol, etc., etc. But all of that, because the border is so huge and people are willing to take any amount of risk to do it because of the problems that they have back home, whether it be economic or it be political or it might be
Hmm.
that they have, they're fearing for their lives, whatever the issue might be, they're
Mhm.
desperate, right? So it's difficult to stop people from coming in. But there are some recommendations that, might work. For example, expand CBP capacity. So CBP is Customs and Border Protection. So if you increase the number of officers and then the capacity to process asylum seekers, so people who have a legitimate concern, if you have more border patrol officers, they can come in legitimately and try to seek asylum rather than trying to cross the border illegally and getting into
Mhm.
trouble. They're in the hands of uh, these sharks, these people who try take a lot of money and promise that they can help them cross the border illegally, and then either well, we've seen so many immigrants die that way because these people don't care about what they're doing, they only care about the money. They don't care about the safety of the passengers that they're escorting across the border. So having more immigration officers, CBP officers, can definitely help. Increasing the resources for US Border Patrol
Mhm.
so that they can improve humanitarian processing, transportation of migrants, overcrowding, of buses that are used to ship migrants. Um, you know, um, for that they need more money. So increasing the resources that they have, maybe establishing a center for migrant coordination, establishing a separate governmental organization to
Mhm.
help coordinate, the efforts that the federal and the state and local authorities are doing to help support these newly arrived migrants. This will reduce the impact on local communities. So local communities will not be disturbed. They will not be, homeless people. They will not be, um, maybe immigrants using up the local resources. Then the local communities get upset, because they're impacted. So to lessen the impact on the local communities, establishing a migrant coordination body can help.
Mhm.
Grow federal support for case management alternatives to detention, so that everybody does not have to be detained, because there are only so many detention facilities. Maybe release people from detention as soon as possible. Maybe use trackers instead, so that people can the authorities can track you and bring you to court if required. Uh,
Mhm.
Revamp the entire asylum processing itself, because uh, asylum process has become so backlogged. So it's important, I think, to revamp the entire system and change the system so that the processing is faster, quicker, more efficient. A
True.
big, huge issue with USCIS is their backlogs, right? Clearing the
True.
backlogs. Immigration courts have so much backlog that it takes them a year to get their first hearing. So maybe, clearing up the backlogs, um, so that, other people don't have to go through the courts, and they can just use prosecutorial discretion to, take them out of the courts, people who don't need to go through the courts, and open up the court calendar for asylum cases.
So true.
Um, so there are many, many things. Um, Fund the right kind of counsel, provide free immigration counsel for people who need it, increase the way of legal immigration for people to come in legally by increasing maybe H2Bs, like, seasonal workers, agricultural workers. US needs them. So maybe make that easier, so that, your borders are more secure and people don't come in illegally. So they can come in legally by applying in their own countries, because that kind of those workers are needed anyway, right? The unskilled workers, the skilled workers,
Mhm.
etc. So these are a few ways that the backlog can be. I mean, the ways that you can stop the rush of people coming in at the borders.
Yes. And right, very rightly mentioned. I mean, the backlogs, some dates are still stuck up to 2012, and it's a long gap. I mean, I'm sure more than a decade. And we also had the pandemic and many other natural calamities, even. Who knows, many lives were even lost. So I don't know how, but some filter process is definitely much needed. So thank you, Prashanthi. And I'm sure, like, if we talk about the many ways, we will keep brainstorming and the whole day may pass by and this 1 hour may not be enough, but thank you, Prashanthi. Yes.
You're welcome.
Also, I mean, the recent updates with Kamala Harris, potentially leading the Democratic ticket. Also, her being an immigrant, I mean, a daughter of an Indian and an African. What legal challenges do you foresee in the 2024 election, as, I mean, with regard to immigration, um, through your point of view?
I am going to be very quick about this because we're running out of time, and I do want to take some questions. There have
Sure.
been a lot of questions in the audience. So, and again, this is a topic which can be another topic
Long.
for yeah, an entirely new topic, right? So, I am excited that Kamala Harris is leading the Democratic ticket. I will be worried if Trump is elected. Simply, uh, I don't care about people's political views but from the immigration point of view, it is something to worry about if the Republicans come back into power. So that's my main concern, uh, because they will make getting visas more difficult. They will make getting green cards more difficult. They will make getting H1s more difficult, like they have done. Like Trump has done in his previous four
Previously, yes.
years. And the Republicans are also saying that they intend to do it. So they have made their intent very clear. So we will definitely face a lot of legal challenges where USCIS is concerned, where all the other agencies are concerned. And we will have to go litigate a lot more, I think, if Trump comes back, because he will try to do everything possible, constitutional, unconstitutional,
Hmm.
to close the gates and allow less people in and make it more difficult for people who are already within the US also. So I think a lot of lawsuits will be filed. That's what I envision if the Republicans come back into power. And people will face a lot of difficulty, but nothing is permanent and there's always solutions for every problem. So let's hope we'll be able to help those people that will face the problems if that happens. That's why we're here as immigration attorneys.
Absolutely, and I do hope to see good changes in the immigration field as well. All right, let's move on now quickly to the questions, and this one is related to what we just spoke about just now. Caroline asking again: Will Donald Trump affect green card in Africa in case he becomes the next president of USA?
Donald Trump will affect green cards everywhere in the world because Republican Party has an anti-immigration stand. They're very clear about what their stand is with reference to immigration. So doesn't matter where you come from. If you are a non-immigrant seeking to immigrate to the US, you will have a more difficult time.
Thank you, Caroline, for that question. Also, all right, moving on to this next one. This is from Hussein, also on YouTube. I got my ETA 1998 approved by DOL now. I-140 is under review from February 2024. EB3 visa for other workers category once approved. I-140, what are the chances to get visa from consular or embassy stage? Sorry, I mean my
Yeah,
punctuations may not be so right.
it's okay. AB3 visa for other work categories once approved. So, if you have, looks like you're outside the country then because you're asking about consular processing. If you're EB3 and you're outside the country, it's going to take a long, long, long time because if you, depending, of course, I'm presuming you're Indian national, but if you're not an Indian national, then just look at the visa bulletin for all other countries. EB3 is still backlogged. So you have to look at the dates that they're working on. And if the dates remain current, and then once the I-140 is approved, if you're outside the country, you'll be able to file your immigrant visa petition. And that process takes about 10-12 months. And if the visa numbers continue to be available at that time, you'll be called by the consulate for an immigrant visa interview, and you'll be given a green card if the priority date is current. So that's the process, but it will take some time.
Okay. All the best to Hussein. I hope you figure out what would work best for you. But if you have further questions, you can always comment even after the stream has ended, and even better, contact attorney Prashanthi directly. Moving on now to this next question, another one from Rag, also on YouTube. Does the rapport with the paralegal at the immigration law firm matter? And do they make or break the case more than the immigration attorney themselves?
Not in a good law firm, that shouldn't uh, happen because the ultimate review and is done by the immigration attorney themselves. It has to
Hmm.
be in any good law firm and by law as well. The immigration attorney is required to, if there's a G28, they're required to review the application before it goes out. I mean, having a good rapport with anyone always makes life much easier, right? We know that from the human point of view, it's always good to be have a good rapport with whoever you're working with.
Hmm.
Same with us, right? In our law firm, we try to have a good rapport with our clients and develop a personal relationship. So it always has to be both ways. But then things get hurdles are cleared, misunderstandings are less, and things get much more pleasant and easy. So it's always good to
Hmm.
have a good rapport. But I'm not saying because you have a bad rapport or you don't like the paralegal that they have the power somewhere to somehow to mess up your case. They definitely don't. The immigration attorney should take care. of the issue and should file your case properly. And if you're unsatisfied with that law firm, then you should change your law firm.
Thank you. Thank you for taking that up, Farag. Oh, he already says, thanks, Prashanthi and Nipasa. Well, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And Hussein has an update saying, yes, he's outside the country. He has a Pakistani passport and living in the UAE.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, so then that was the basis of my answer as well.
Thank you. And he says, thank you as well. Thank you. Thank you, Hussein, as well. All right, let's take up another question now. This one is from Reshma. I am facing a lengthy separation from my family due to US immigration backlog. Are there any alternative options or strategies to expedite the process, such as applying for a provisional waiver or seeking humanitarian parole? Can I also explore other visa categories, such as an H-1B or L-1 visa, to reunite with my family sooner?
It would be better if you told me what was your particular case, what status you're. I mean, maybe you have not filed a green card, or you don't have. I see. In order to answer your
From
question, I need to know what your immigration case is, what you filed. Um, in general, green cards are taking a long time, but you don't need to be separated from your family because your dependents can come on a non-immigrant dependent visa. Um, so, just give us more information about yourself so we can kind of fine tune our answer to suit, that'll help you. So rather than giving a vague, broad answer, which might not help you, um, yeah, just give us more information about yourself.
All right, all right. Thank you, Reshma. And moving on now quickly to this one is from Chandra. What are the reasons why many individuals who were selected in the first H-1B lottery did not proceed with filing their applications? And
It's
does this indicate that the US job market is not doing well, or are there any other factors at play?
I think it's mainly the US. You've answered your own question. It's mainly the US job market not doing well, the layoffs. IT companies, as you know, take up most of the cap cases, and the employers, it's not the individuals so much, but the employers are not willing to file the H1 because maybe they don't see that they'll be able to place the candidates once they come into the US. If the market was doing well, they usually bring in the candidates and they're able to, they've already placed them or they're able to place them pretty quickly um, into the market. So, yes, it is the job market is the most important factor. I don't think there are any other factors at play here.
Okay. Thank you for answering, Chandra, and thank you for your question, Chandra. And now, last question from the audience, and we will wrap up our show after this. From Ravi. I've been waiting for my priority date to become current for my employment based green card application, but it's taking much longer than expected. Are there any strategies to expedite the process, such as filing a mandamus lawsuit or switching to a different visa category, similar
So,
to?
yeah, so it really depends on what your status is. Are you waiting because your priority date is not available? Then there's not much you can do. You can't file a mandamus lawsuit. But if your priority date is available and your 485 has not been processed for more than 12 months, for example, then that would be a good mandamus lawsuit. So mandamus is basically compelling the government, any government body to do what they're supposed to do. You're compelling them to act within a
Okay.
reasonable period of time. That's what a mandamus is. So that would be a good idea to do. Um, I don't know which category you applied in. If we're talking about the green card, then perhaps if you've applied in EB2 or EB3, you can try applying in EB1. But I must tell you that not everyone qualifies for EB1. It's either multinational executives or extraordinary ability or researchers or extraordinary ability in the sciences, arts, sports, etc. Only they qualify. So you have to see whether you qualify or not.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think with this, we've come to the end of our show, and with all the questions we have collectively, whether from our audience or from my end as well. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for patiently answering each one of them and making this whole session a very interesting one and an insightful one.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Me too, me too. So thank you so much. And friends, if you have any further questions or want to contact attorney Prashanthi Reddy directly, the details are on the screen. You can call her on the number 212-354-1010 or even email her prashanthi@reddyesq.com. Please note down the spellings. They may be different. And also, if you want to get to know more about attorney Prashanthi Reddy and the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy, definitely go visit reddyesq.com. Thank you, Prashanthi. You have a great day ahead.
You too. Thanks.
All right, friends. And you too, if you want to contact me, you can call me on this number or even WhatsApp me. My number is on the screen, 408-335-6444. And my email address is neep@higheritpeople.com. And to get to know more about us, definitely go visit www.higheritpeople.com. And I would love to say thank you to each one of you for making this webinar a more interesting one. Thank you for your questions, and thank you, Rag, Hussein. Thank you, Caroline and Noreen, and all you folks out there for your very interesting questions. And I'm happy to tell you that I will be joining you with another webinar and another important guest in another hour. So at 2 p.m. EDT, don't forget to join me for another webinar. It's going to be another interesting session. And thank you so much for now. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We are Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, not only on YouTube, but also on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on Twitter. So thank you so much for now, and have a great day ahead. See you shortly.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at neep@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www